Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you back at this aristocratic channel of ours. And this channel is known as MATRIC+NATED Specialist, where we of course our videos which they regard to communication, management communication, which are also articulated on this channel. So ensure that you are tuning on public administration and for. And this today we are having one of the important reasons why we should tune on and ensure that we pass the message to others, because of we've got what most important tool is one of the important measures. And then you would see that this lecturer guide entails our details. And then without any wasting time, this content coverage, it includes the exam question paper, exam questions, and then the content is delivered in this video with answers, possible answers on the memorandum. And then if we are to move on, we are to see that under this topic in public administration, the word public, it means about public, we are talking about pure citizens that they stay in South Africa. And then we are saying these citizens, they pay a direct tax to the government. And then the government must ensure that he delivers services to those people. And then he will deliver them by means of administration. The word administration, it means to control. So we will be looking on how citizens, people that they live in a country, contribute to the major aspect of public administration, how the country must be managed, and then by the government, which is called an administration. After you studying this unit, you should be able to explain, if you can check very well, to define the environment of public administration and administration, as well as the administrative process, logical. So we are saying for public administration too, okay, there must be administrative processes that we should follow, logical. And then number two, we have to define unique character of the environment, correlation to a governmental institution activities. So we are saying that these characters of this environment, they go hand in hand, they correlate with governmental institutions activities. And then we have many governmental institutions. It can be Department of Health, Department of Labor, and then they have activities that they play where in our country to ensure that there is public administration that is taking place, and the public, it is being controlled by the government. I hope we are together. And then it is therefore required from the student to classify public activities, processes, and functions, such as the manner that the function, activities, and process become clear. Define the difference between public administration and administration. We are going to see also with applicable examples. Please take note, we are also going to explain the origin, the word origin. Where does this come from? Of public responsibility. So we are saying that the public is place or a jurisdiction that they stay in. They've got a public responsibility to ensure that they attend public meetings in regards to a public management, as well as the public responsibility of officials. Who are the officials? These are people that are working for the government. We are calling them officials. Towards the employer and the public. And then we are going to check there lastly, distinguish the relative role players. So we have learned in previous grades that we have role players. It is also a continuity whereby we have learned that to say a household is also a role player. And what is a role player? A role player, it is a committee or an individual that plays a role in regards to our community. So we are saying, and different backgrounds, their involvement in political process. I hope that is very clear. And then if we are moving on again here, we would see that typically the question that can arise there is that discuss advantage and disadvantage of the cabinet secretariat. So we are saying the cabinet secretariat is taking notes and ensure that he does secretarial activities, but where? On the cabinet. So remember that who is in the cabinet? The president, the ministers. So this person, he works where? In the parliament. Okay? And then we would see that if we are moving on again, the unit is responsible for providing effective secretarial support and conjunction with the PCAS, facilitating the process to report to the cabinet On the implementation of government program action. The unit's core responsibility include ensuring logistic arrangement and administrative support for the cabinet and the committee meetings, as well as drafting and distribution of relevant documents. So here we can be asked to say the PCSA, what does it stand for? It stands for Policy, Coordination, and Advisory Services. So we are saying this office, they deal with what? With policy. And what is a policy? It's a guideline that guides us or to have it done. So they coordinate all those advisory services in terms of what they must deliver to people. And then they ensure that that work is done. Okay. And then we are saying now the advantage of that, the cabinet secretary prepares the agenda with explanatory memoranda. He writes minutes during the discussion in parliament. He follow up on decision. And the disadvantage is that confidentiality can be threatened because the nature of okay. And then if ever we are to move on, we would see that another question which can derive here, number 2, state 5 characteristics of the state. So we are saying in order for us, remember what is a state? A state, it's a country that has its own borders and its own people. So we are saying, how can we see that this is a state? They are characteristics. And then there are 5 which can be asked for 10 marks. And then we are saying that a place is a state if it is internationally recognized by demarcated geographical area. So we are saying these demarcated borders to say this is a geographic area. Here it is in South Africa. It is a state on its own. It has a permanent population and it is independent, not part of another sovereign political entity. So it is interdependent, and then it has the right to self-determination. So when we are saying that, we are saying the state has its own public institution, like different types of government organs that maintains law and order. And also they render public to the population. So if ever we are rendered or we are rendering services to our own state, we've got what we call self-determination. And then lastly, the state has its own independent government. So we are in a democratic government. We have a party which rules only South Africa, which is called as our government that is democratic, that is interdependent, is independent. And the third question that can arise there, we are saying, explain the distinctive characteristics. So distinctive, the word differences. They can say differences, characteristics of the word public administration by referring to the difference between public administration and administration in the private sector. So it says that differentiate between the private sector and the public enterprise. Remember that under the private sector, this it can be for close to 8 marks. This it can be 8 marks to say private enterprise. It involves in manufacturing and trading of products and services because of they are after money. And public enterprise, they provide, the word provision is to provide essential services, electricity and water as an example. If ever we are moving on, we are saying the private enterprise is owned by individual or it is by companies, but the public enterprise is managed by the government. If we are going on, we would see that under the private enterprise, activities are collectively together called business economics or management. And here, whereas in public enterprise activity are collectively called public administration. The last aspect that you can check there is that under the private enterprise, you are saying the purpose is to make profit because of they sell products to people. But we are saying now here in public enterprise, the reason for existence is to promote the general welfare within the society. So that will be for 8 marks, the difference between the public and the private sector. Okay. If we move on again, we are to see that that we need and ensure we are taking notes as we go on. We already know the difference between the public and the private sector. We are saying public is controlled by the government, and then private is controlled by the company or the people. So there is no need for us to read that information, we must move again to the typical. Okay, without wasting any time, we would see that we can go to question 4 then, whereby the question can come to say name 4 role players. Remember, I've talked about the role players. I've said that they are people or companies which are involved in decision making of the country. Decision making of the country in the constitution. These people can vote. These people, they have a say. They can investigate. They are also government. So we have said that role players, they are stakeholders. Players. So you must know all these role players and explain. I want you to listen thoroughly. Population, citizens, residents, individuals, these are people that they live in an area and they have functions. Interest group or pressure group, activity, they support a certain activity only. Legislative institution, these are institutions that deals with law. Executive institution, including the cabinet secretariat. We know about the cabinet secretariat, the commission of inquiry. This is an independent board that can be sent to inquire on matters pertaining the maladministration in the country. International institution from abroad, and then we've got political office bearer or public servants. These are people that are working for the government, and then we've got media. It can be television, social media platforms, and then we have other states, which is other countries. They can say name and explain, then it's 10 marks. Number 5, as we are moving on, the other question can come here to say, briefly describe public responsibility. Before we can read, we are saying that public responsibility, they go hand in hand with what? With public accountability. The word responsibility goes hand in hand with accountable, and you remain responsible for it. So here we are asked to say public. The word publics are people that they stay in the country and they've gone selves. And then if ever we can check the first aspect there, we can see that a public responsibility and public accountability, they go hand in hand. I've said that both political, executive, or office holders and public officials have got a responsibility to be committed to work, achieving the objective set in government institutions, and ensure that the money given by the public in the form of what? Of tax is well paid for and it is well spent. So those are the responsibilities of public officials. Okay? If we are moving on again, we would see that we have came to the end of the module. That's module 1. Please tune on for module 2. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a good